Hi, I'm just having a little bit of a break from the working in the spring sun, which is beautiful. And I just wanted to go over two key concepts, which is about tailoring both your diet and your anti-cancer lifestyle that you would need to quickly develop if you end up with stage 4 cancer or some other form of cancer, and of course which everyone can try and develop because of the preventative benefits of tailoring a diet and a lifestyle to enhance your immune system. So the two key concepts about it are really tailoring it for your own system and whatever deficiencies there are there and what harms you're causing in your lifestyle, so eradicating some of those negative things that are impacting on your immune system, which is your frontline defence against tumour formation and cancer cells. So tailoring it's important, and the other issue that's really important is understanding that tailoring is because there's no ready-made shelf solution for you. I'm sure there's some things, possibly you can say, if you've been having a lot of high processed foods and a lot of meat and sugar and things, a vegan diet might be a quick fix, but that's pretty much a broad brushstroke approach. Depending on your illness, which organs it's attacking, which deficiencies you have, you might have to look at a whole lot of tailoring around that. So again, I'm repeatedly asked for, what's your exact 39 steps? And, my background, my genetics, might be different to yours. My disease, I'm known, just different people with lung cancer respond completely different, even with the same lung cancer, even in the same kind of spread. People have all sorts of reactions to the drugs that are different, and they have reactions to the cancer itself that are different. So the more I talk to people, the more I realise the principle, is really important, is to start listening to your body, start making the changes, look at those common sense things you can do to remove stress, to remove excess sugar, to remove excess strains on your immune system and bolster your immune system with the things it needs, just at a very material level, nutrients and minerals, and even such a thing as the temperature, for your body temperature. So the things I did, the 4 medical treatments I had, and the 39 different lifestyle adjustments and changes I did, aren't going to be suited to everyone. And even now I'm experimenting and seeing what are those 39 that are going to be I need to keep as a prevention lifestyle. So it's not about choosing a vegan path or choosing a meat path. It's about really getting down to the tin tacks of what's going to make your system work correctly, your immune system. And of course, both the disease and your medication may interfere with some of those actions. A lot of my actions are based around walking. So if you've got joint pain or swelling or things happen, you might not be able to even tackle that. And my other actions physically, involve saunas and things like that, which requires public pools and access to those types of things, which are not uniformly available even in Victoria, or conveniently available for country people. So, and there may be other things where you can do that you'll find. There could be upper body workouts. There could be other ways to achieve the same things I did in those physical activities, and also with the diet. But one of the problems with this blanket thinking about complementary treatments, whether they work or don't work, well, they'll help. Percentage will help. Every percentage will help. But also that are universal guidelines or universal rules, why they don't work. They don't work because human beings are quite diverse individually and geographically. There's some diversity there. So just simple things like consumption of milk which is uniform in health regulations across the US and UK and Australia, is actually culturally biased. And so the prevalence of lactose intolerance is very high for people coming from Middle East, Africa and Asia. So one of the adjustments I had to make was getting rid of lactose in cow's milk, and there's plenty of alternatives and you don't really need it. But these are habits that I was told were normal. So, so again, the thing there is that whatever people are saying is normal, or is here's the solution online, it's not the solution unless it's been tested against your own personal needs and your own personal conditions of your illness and the deficiencies in your own lifestyle. And the same goes through to stress. And a lot of the time I'm talking about exercise and diets, because these are complementary treatments you can make in addition to whatever medical treatments you're going through. But part of the reason is, especially people who are older, who have responsibility with kids and relatives, is you've probably ended up in a health situation because you've neglected your health, and it may be social pressures and family pressures that do that. So getting a focus back on yourself, on your own health, about the diet, isn't just about getting the nutrition you want, isn't just about getting the rest you need, getting the exercise you need. It's also about some internal centering and some other issues there, which are core to mindfulness and to healing, that are covered in other disciplines like yoga or meditation. So we don't allow ourselves that space. So there is a need for that space, because you're trying to get your whole immune system up, running at 100%. So obviously tensions, mental tensions, emotional tensions, stresses, all these things are going to impact too. So in some ways, the regular exercise, the care and preparation and thinking about what am I going to have to heal me is kind of focusing you in the right way, just like a sports person might do that with various routines or practices. It's not just about refining techniques, it's that every day you're kind of coming back to focus on what are the elements in your life to look after you, because with jobs and with families we also kind of just become playing a role or a function, and that's where the neglect comes in. So tailoring is important, and the guidelines that you see in the supermarket are influenced by commercial pressures and government inertia, and even down to a whole fact that our parliaments kind of represent people from about 20 years ago. They represent power structures and demographics from about 20 years ago, sometimes 50 years ago. And so a lot of concepts in terms of healing don't come through the legislation, don't come through the guidelines, don't come through the regulation. So when you go into the supermarket, all the marketing about health is wrong. There's so much trickery on fat and on sugar. There's so much deceit on lack of clarity on what's in things. It gets really hard. So obviously raw food, preparing just basic stuff, vegetables and fruit, with as less cooking as possible and without packaging, is the way to go. So really it's going to be hard work trying to work with the processed and packaged food that you might have eaten, and it'll be hard work to even decipher whether it's harmful for you or not in your healing. So and yes, it would be great to just switch to organic, because there's other additives and things that might be clogging up your system, but that's very expensive, and I tended to concentrate on core ingredients that were organic and do some core replacements, like if I did include, at one point I did include chicken back in my diet, I just switched to two small portions of organic chicken a week. So pretty minimal, because the system had to be given some rest, and some of this heavy stuff that we eat, which we call normal, really does not give you good health, and it has lots of side effects that you don't need. So it's tedious to try and tailor your own steps. You've got to listen to your body a lot, got to go online, do a bit of research yourself. Of course there's nutritionists, of course there's naturopaths, of course there's the doctors and the hospitals, and a lot of advice you can get. A lot will be conflicting and you'll be confused, and that's because you've got to put together your own little roadmap, and your roadmap through the sort of toxins that are the food system and the traps that is this current food system, it's going to be different to everybody else's. A lot of traditions migrants bring with them are good to tap into to Australia, because obviously those things have been produced over thousands and thousands of years, and there's some great benefits to elements of them. But even the traditional diets from overseas have all been corrupted, and a lot of extra carbs, a lot of sugar have been added to traditional diets. So, if you think you're on the Mediterranean diet and that's fine, you want to just double check, because there'll be a lot of things there that don't need to be there. Fresh vegetables, fantastic, greens, olive oil, all these things, omega-3, garlic, all these things can play their role. But a lot of the traditional food has now been corrupted over the last few hundred years, and it's not as bad as some of the Australian diet, but pretty much up there. So, and the same thing with some Asian traditions, where a lot of things have crept in that you might not want to include in your diet, and then there's other things that may be beneficial for you. Again, on a case-by-case basis, because anti-inflammatories may be great, but then you may have some other reactions to some of those, and then quantity, of course, of foods that have a lot of power need to be monitored in terms of the quantity you have for your system, not for what's online, not for the doctor, the nutritionist or anyone, but for your system, how you're feeling, how you're going. Generally, we know most of us in Australia are overeating, and that includes people from diverse backgrounds too, because there's a kind of abundance of food and ingredients, and sometimes we multiply the bad things of those traditions. So, those traditions do have a lot of great things, like lemons, like olive oil, like almond oil, like turmeric, various other things that you can pick up, and you'll see as you develop your diet whether they can help you. But unfortunately, the food guidelines, the food pyramid, may not be relevant for you a lot of times in your healing, if you're going to get onto a pathway of healing. And as I went through different reactions to drugs, there was about 6 different diets I did, basically, variations from a very strict vegetarian fruit only one with, skipping carbohydrates, dairy and meat for the first few months, where I did a lot of healing. So, there's not one diet you might want to have, and obviously a lot of cancer patients who have survived have periods of fasting. And again, you've got a serious illness, you may be having serious side effects that are in addition to that restrict what you do in terms of fasting. But fasting, when it gives your body a bit of a rest, can just, your digestion system a bit of a rest, can give you a new base to go forward and build up a purer kind of gut health. But of course you need to get some knowledge about that and get some help and monitor what you're doing each week, each fortnight, each month. And of course ultimately you get scans every couple of months, and then you find out whether the total of what you've been doing with the doctors and at home, whatever, has added up to a positive result or not. So there's no off-the-shelf uniform solution. There's no golden bullet. Even on the medical treatments, they have percentages of success. Some of them succeed at reducing tumours early on, then stop. So, to try and do this yes, no business, and one single diet, one single cure is really counterproductive. Uh, um, and it is hard because if you've been given prognoses of less than 12 months or less than 2 years, then the urgency is there to change. But 2 months, 8 weeks doing a diet, 9 weeks doing different diets, doing things can seriously lift your health and help lift your immune system for many people. So it's that concentrated effort. But if you think you just have to deviate a little bit from the normal, if your normal was very healthy, that's good. But if your normal was even following the health guidelines, following the labels, then it's probably pretty unhealthy. And it's been accepted as a norm that now that Australians are overweight or obese, it's accepted as the norm that we're actually physically unfit because there's so many convenient ways to avoid walking and moving. But that's not where you want to be. If you've got tumours growing and you want them to stop, you need to get off that fast conveyor belt of commercially influenced food guidelines, of commercially driven food, of habit-driven food, of taste bud-driven food, of convenient food, and take the time to source raw foods, cut them up, blend them, make a salad, make a soup. These things are actually easy, and just get as much raw ingredients and natural ingredients into you as you can. And meat may be part of it, it may not be. Seeds may be part of it. For some of us, carbs and high processed wheat and milk, lactose milk, just has to go out quickly, just to aid your digestive system, to get it into sync, into balance. And you won't find any guideline that will give you your exact balance you need. That's going to be your own unique little path. It may be a lot simpler than mine. It may be easier, just maybe a few 6 or 12 things that you need to do to get yourself up to optimum. And then again, it may be that everything you're doing is actually against your system, and you actually have to break the breakfast habit, the morning tea habit, the lunch habit, the dinner habit, and all those habits, and start afresh and give yourself a chance.